Hello and welcome to our weekly message from Ballymoney and Derrykeehan Catholic Parish. I'm Father Damian, the parish priest, and this week I want to talk about my namesake, Father Damian. Well, not exactly 100% my namesake. His name is spelt with an E at the end and mine has an A. That's very important. But we're all Damians together here. That little statuette was a gift from a friend of mine, Father Andrew Black. I'm not sure if it's the very best likeness. The real Father Damien probably didn't have such rosy cheeks. In fact, here's how he looked. Damien was born Joseph de Veuster in Belgium in 1840. From the early age he wanted to be a priest, and eventually he and his brother joined the Congregation of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. Damien was his religious name, and he was known as Father Damien from then on. At the age of 23, he was sent on mission to Hawaii, and was never to return home. When he arrived in Hawaii, the islands were in the midst of a health crisis. The feared disease of leprosy was in the community and claiming many people. At this time, there was still no known cure, and the sufferers were condemned to a slow, painful death. And, just as in biblical times, the lepers were often shunned by other people who feared being infected. Eventually, the authorities took to rounding up the lepers and exiling them to a colony on a peninsula called Kaluapapa on the island of Molokai, where over many years thousands were basically abandoned. The missionary priests in Hawaii were determined to do something to help the lepers, but they knew that this meant one missionary going into exile himself and taking the risk that he would catch the disease too. Father Damien came forward to volunteer. And when he arrived in the colony, he found several hundred people living without law or hope. But he was sure that the gospel of Jesus Christ would make a difference to this place of despair. For the next 16 years, he served them as their priest, giving them all spiritual support, preaching, teaching, building churches, celebrating the sacraments, ceremonies, processions, even forming choirs. But Father Damien wasn't blind to the practical needs of the community either. He organised the building of a reservoir, put in pipes to bring fresh water, built hospitals, housing and orphanages. He spent hours each day tending the dying, and his free time was often spent making coffins to bury the dead with respect and dignity. Slowly but surely, his enormous efforts bore great fruit and eventually attracted attention and financial support from abroad. Sadly, Father Damien eventually caught leprosy himself, but he kept on working, and he lived long enough to see a convent of nuns and other priests come to continue his work before he died in 1889. His story spread around the world at that time, and he was as famous for his charity then as Mother Teresa was 100 years later. It's thanks to him that the name Damien, with either spelling, became so well known in the last century. And at last, 11 years ago, Pope Benedict canonised him, declaring him Saint Damien of Molokai. What made St. Damian's mission so successful was that he brought the good news of Jesus Christ in both word and action. He combined the ministry of prayer, preaching, sacraments, with the practical works that would help the community. After all, not everyone on the colony was a Catholic. Indeed, some of the inhabitants had little time for religion. But all of them were helped by the actions Father Damien took, whether securing fresh water or burying the dead. Together, preaching the gospel and putting it into action had a huge impact on the people and brought many souls to Christ. Well, of course, these were the tactics that Jesus himself had used in his own mission. The Lord had always combined his teaching with a real care for the practical needs of individuals. He healed the sick, fed the hungry, respected the poor, forgave sinners, and reached out to the excluded. That goodness won many hearts, who were then willing to listen as he explained how these actions were just the beginning of the kingdom of God. And that's what missionaries have been doing ever since. They share the gospel and they live by its values. And in this way, they bring the kingdom of God to other people. Last weekend in the church, we marked Mission Sunday, the annual day to think about the good work done by missionaries, including priests, sisters, brothers, laywomen and men, to bring the whole gospel to those places in the world that need it the most. We have a special collection to help raise funds for this work and for the communities that missionaries are serving. But Mission Sunday wasn't just an appeal for money. It's a reminder to us that all Christians are called to be missionaries wherever we live. By virtue of our baptism, we have the right and the responsibility to share the gospel with others. Ballymoney is a very different place to Molokai or Africa or South America, but we need missionaries right here too. There are so many people around us who have little or no faith to fall back on. And especially in these times, there are so many people who really need both help and hope. And that's what Jesus wants us to do, you and me, to help others the way he did and to share his good news with them by being open about our faith. The two go together. And you see that in our local parishes already. A group like St Vincent de Paul put the gospel into action, offering practical support to families in crisis in the local area, irrespective of whether they're Catholic or even religious. Everyone is treated the same. And by doing this work, the volunteer members bring not just help, but also the love of Christ from our parish to those who may need it the most. And we can all be like that. Our community, our neighbours, our own family at times, they need our help, and they need to know that we really are Catholics who love God and whose faith makes all the difference in our lives. So don't be afraid to be kind to others, even if it involves a sacrifice on your part. Don't be afraid either to let people know that you love God and you believe in Jesus Christ and his church. You don't have to bash the Bible or be disrespectful. Sometimes sharing the gospel can be as simple as just telling someone that you'll pray for them. And it's amazing how often that promise can have a real impact on people. So consider yourself a missionary, because we all are. Be a Christian in your actions and never hide your faith either. That will make you a missionary of the gospel right here at home. And with the help of God, you, like my friend Father Damian, Saint Damian, will bring hope and help to others and save souls too. God bless.